G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and today I want to talk about shills in the hobby. Now, this is not a subject I picked. This is a subject that has been repeatedly asked for on multiple videos and a lot on Facebook. And essentially people are asking me to talk about all the people in the community that just want to praise Games Workshop or whoever and don't point out any of the negatives, and they only ever have praise to say. Now, it's not a subject I really want to tackle because I don't have a huge amount to say on it. But, in the interest of fulfilling the asked for question, I'm going to try and do that today. And so, first place I think it's best to lead off with is the actual things I do on this channel, which is, in my opinion, consumer advocacy. In a perfect world, the Outer Circle just wouldn't exist, because everything would be great with the hobby. Maybe it would exist as another entity. Maybe it would just be Macca's channel or something, instead of being called the Outer Circle, because, you know, it's all in the name. We're on the outside. And I'd be just doing something like entering 30k, and that's all the videos you'd ever see. But unfortunately, it's not like that. The actual world is a lot more complex. So you have things like, you know, the informative videos, which the informative playlist is all about things like how financials work, how they make models, the costs of shipping, all the costs involved, and where you're getting screwed by the company, that sort of thing. And people don't like that necessarily, because it shines a negative light on the company. But it had to be said, and other people weren't doing it. I don't see other channels out there going through, okay, this is what it costs to ship a container around the world. This is what this costs. You don't see it, and because of that, felt I had to do it. Same with what broke the fans. I notice people always want to make a video about, you know, this is the Chaos Codex, here's what you can do with it, you know, here's the current edition, how great is it? No one was turning around and saying, you know, here's our current codex and here's how shit it is. So that's why that playlist exists, because people weren't saying what I felt needed to be said. And I got so frustrated at being basically voiceless that it led to the entire creation of this channel in the first place, basically, because I said, well, fuck this. You know, here's a faction I love, and in my mind, it's very easy to fix the problems. And so that's why it's frustrating, because I'm going to myself, why hasn't someone fixed the problems? So that's where I come from. I'm letting people know what my frustrations are, and the things they really need to know before they get into this hobby, or if they're in the hobby, maybe second guess their decisions. You know, break through a bit of that ignorance lens, as it were, and make them go, hey, maybe things aren't as rosy as I think they are, and maybe I should better invest my time and resources, or consider some changes. And, you know, if people choose not to change or whatever, that's fine too, because I don't have any control over that. I don't want to ruin anyone's hobby. I'm just putting it out there, what it's like, and giving a voice to those who don't have a voice. Because inevitably, anyone who has a voice and goes out there and tries to say something negative, like, hey, you rose the prices overnight by 60% in my country, Forge World, well, they just get drowned out by all the people saying, oh, well, you know, the shipping's heaps more expensive to there and the taxes are higher and da-da-da. Which is why you have to make a video that says, well, actually, you're full of shit, and that's not the reason at all. And so that's what happens on my channel. And so that's made people go, oh, fuck, the Outer Circle, they're super negative. Well, not really. I'm just telling you the truth as I see it. And wherever possible, where I do something like this is how much it should cost to, you know, ship models around the world, for example, I actually give you the websites and things like that. I try and give you all the facts. So I'm like, hey, at least you know how I got to my conclusion. And that way you can't just turn around to me and give me a no-nonsense answer like, you just don't know. It's like, well, educate me. I've given you links and resources. Do the same back. And so when I look at shills, and I guess, you know, 4.5 minutes in, I'm going to get into the proper crux of the video. Shills are different. So the Outer Circle for me is a hobby. It's something I do just to engage with the community in my own way, as I've said. I'm an engineer at a plastic factory. I have a full-time career, and I'm very invested in it. It's why the videos have gone down lately, because I'm just so busy with work. And other people, however, this hobby is their work. You're talking organisations like, say, Spiky Bits, or maybe GBHL, Copperside Games, Mini Wargaming, what else? Chapter Master Valrek. So these sort of people, this is entirely their career, and if they fuck it up and lose their customer base, as it were, the people viewing their videos, because they don't give them what they want, they're fucked. If I lose the outer circle, my life will go on just fine. Because what I get from Patreon and that each month basically just covers the expenses of having the channel. It's expensive, audio equipment, for example, that sort of thing. I'm not funding my lifestyle off it, though. So that's something to bear in mind. And, of course, let's take Valrek as a great example. Everyone mentions how Valrek's a huge shill. I'm going to try and make people think what it'd be like to be him for a moment. So, you've dedicated basically your career at this point to one. If you try and re-enter the workforce, I don't know what his sort of qualifications or skills or whatever are like, that's going to be quite difficult, because if they say, what have you been doing for the last few years? Not working, in retail or whatever, I don't know what he's qualified. It could be an engineer, it could be a scientist, I don't know. Then he has to say, for the last 5 years or something, whatever it is, I've just been making YouTube videos about toy soldiers. And maybe not the most inviting thing for an employer to look at. So you need to safeguard the revenue stream, don't you? So that's where someone like Valrek will go, well, hey, Games Workshop's released something, the majority of people are just unthinking and just want to hear how good something is because they're on the hype train. Same as all those channels that do things like trailer reactions for, here comes the new Star Wars. Forget that The Last Jedi was a total fucking turd and the franchise is burned to the ground. Just praise it. Just be thankful for getting something, that kind of mentality. Which is, in my opinion, very unhealthy. It's like that. You gotta know your audience, and so you'd be hedging your bets if you were someone like Valrek going, well, I'm pretty fucked if my audience goes away, so I'm gonna try and say nice things about the hobby in the hopes that majority of people watching my show like hearing nice things about the hobby. But I don't want to say anything if there is a problem too controversial. Nothing I can't just walk back or hide in some doublespeak. Okay? So that's my take on Valrek. You've got someone who is just safeguarding his living. And look, he may love everything Games Workshop does from the bottom of his heart. I don't know, guys. I honestly don't know. If he does, that's probably a bit more of a problem, because that sort of strays into the next area, which is the Stockholm Syndrome type thing, or being, say, committed to the pot, as it were. And I'm partly committed to the pot here as well, so don't think I'm blameless in this. So, being committed to the pot, obviously, is a poker term, and I've brought it up many times on the show before, but basically, if you are playing a game of poker, and you've put a heap of money into the hand already, and you've got pretty much nothing left, there's no point keeping what little you've got and trying to, wait for a better hand later on down the line and just having nothing to bet on the good hand. You may as well just go all in now and try and bluff it or something. You're committed. You've put so much in already that, if you walk away at this point, it just looks bad for you. And I think for a lot of people who are quote-unquote shills, that's what it's like. They've committed so much to this hobby, the thought of having to turn around one day and say, look, all the decisions I made over the years and that in this hobby, all this money, whatever, it was wasted, that would crush them. I mean, I don't see it that way as a big waste. I think, hey, so much of it has brought happiness and so many hours fulfilled, time taken up, that sort of thing, painting. That was great fun, so it's not a negative thing at all, in my opinion. But for some people, they will see it that way. And when they see someone like myself turn around to Games Workshop and say, hey, what you're doing is just wrong with, say, prices, they take it as a personal attack on themselves. It's like I'm demeaning their investment. And so then they come onto the channel and you get things like on the Lord of the Rings videos, just massive downvotes. They don't turn around and say how wrong the actual points made were. Instead, they sort of come up with their own similar point and then argue that. So, for example, at the time I did one particular video, I said, look, the game is a dead hobby for Games Workshop because they weren't supporting it. And then all these people write in the comments, it's not a dead hobby, we support it. It's like, well, That wasn't my point. My point was the company isn't supporting it. Attack that point, and they don't. So if you're a shill, you don't want that. You don't want these people coming on your channel and just mass flagging and downvoting you, ruining your livelihood, saying how shit you are. So you give them what you know they want to hear. Okay? Then you've got people like Kirioth. I like Kirioth a lot. He is not a shill. I have seen people call him out in his comments, but he does call it out, as it were. I think it's fair to give him his due. He does turn around and say if he thinks something is a bit suspect or maybe not great value. Now, granted, he doesn't turn around like, say, I would, and say, this is fucking bullshit. He'll say something like, I don't know if this is ideal. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly acceptable. What's wrong with that? He's calling it how he sees it. That is not shilling, guys. Shilling is where you turn around and it is something that's clearly wrong, like, say, Games Workshop, Forge World price rises last year, where they just go, fuck it, we're going to up the price by 60% for some countries like Australia and New Zealand, we're going to up it by 40% for the US, just for where you live. It has nothing to do with, say, the value of the pound falling, because, hey, Games Workshop, they're in England. They've got to pay their workers £40. It doesn't matter whether the £40 comes from Australia or from the US, it's still fucking £40. Right? It's got nothing to do with Brexit, any of that kind of shit. They just up the price because they need the revenue coming in, looks good to shareholders, increased growth, that kind of thing. Some channels call that out, some don't. And it's the ones who don't that are the shills. And the majority of people called it for what it was, which is great to see. So, the shills aren't as bad as people make out. It's not like Hollywood movies right now, where you go on YouTube and there's just dozens of people talking about how great something like Star Wars is, and how they're literally crying on camera doing a trailer reaction or something like fucking how horrible is that shit? Seriously, right? That's not what you're seeing a lot of in the game. Then you've got organisations, of course, like, say, Spiky Shits or Battle of Lost Souls, who are not just looking out for their own livelihood, but the entire company, the entire group of people involved in making it. Now, some are dudes who are like, yeah, you know what, I'd probably enjoy hanging out with them. Like, I think Mini Wargaming's like that. I'm like, yeah, these are probably a fun group of dudes to hang out with. But I look at something like Spiky Bits or Battle of Lost Souls, and I'm like, I don't think I would be able to stand you in real life. And you know what? They probably couldn't stand me either. So, neither side is really losing in this situation. I'm a pretty unlikable guy at times. But, you know, what makes them bad? Well, they are an endless hype train that wants to say how good something is, and then, down the line, how bad it is. They're trying to have the cake and eat it too. So when something comes out, how great is it, how amazing, this is the kind of crazy, you know, your Black Blowfly, here's how I'm going to fuck this game and break the list and that kind of thing for everyone. And then 6 months' time, we're going to talk about how this thing is breaking the game and how bad it is that it exists. Not good, is it, right? That, to me, is worse than shilling. There's at least a shill, they're being upfront about it. They're not going to turn around down the line and go, oh, you know, hi, I'm Valrek. Even though I said I really like Primaris Marines, I've reconsidered my position. That's very, very unlikely to happen. But if, I suppose what would be likely to happen with these sort of people is if Games Workshop turned around and said, we're going to release a new Primaris Marine, as it were, you know, something Mark 11 armor. Even the Primaris Marines are going to get phased out, the old Marines are... There are people who'll turn around and say, oh, well, this is the best thing ever. They're pretty unhelpful. So, overall, I know this is a pretty boring video for people, but you asked, and I'm doing my best to try and deliver. There are obviously these people out there who want to praise everything. Like, let's look at GBHL. There's another interesting example because it's different again. So, GBHL, they will talk about the rules, maybe the things that disappoint them in the rules, but they won't go as far as saying negative things outright that I've ever seen. I watched hundreds of their videos. They might review an army list on a certain faction in Middle-earth, and they'll go through all the heroes and be like, well, that's a bit disappointing, you know, this hero should have an extra point of might or fate or You know, maybe 5 points cheaper would be better value. Oh well, and they just move on. They don't go, why is this hero in this state? What could be done to fix this? Why was this hero released this way? That sort of thing, which is what I would do. They're just like, we're just happy to have something. And of course, the Hobbit meta, but people shit on 40k. I think the Hobbit game, Lord of the Rings, is the most power gamey fucking meta in the entire history of Games Workshop. 8th edition Torment armies have less cheese going on than Lord of the Rings. And this is something that shit me for a while, so I'm just going to insert it into this video right now. People will put together a list or something, and it'll be like 500 point tournament. And someone like me would be like, oh, you know, I love Numenor. I'm going to take like Elendil and some Warriors of Numenor, you know, a mix of spears, bows, swords, that kind of thing. Oh, this would be so fun and thematic. And then I'll go along to a game, and the person opposite me will be like, yeah, I'm taking 2 Cave Trolls, Witch King of Angmar, and 2 Barrow Wights, or something like that. It's like, the fuck is that? The fuck is that? That is min-maxing and you know it. And yes, that has really happened. That's why I use that example. It's like, if you're a podcaster in that meta, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to play to it, aren't you? You're going to talk about how good it is. You're going to be like, oh, well, you know, yeah, we're a super power game, man, but that's just the way it is, you know. How great is our community? They want to make people second guess and go, maybe we should change the way we are as a community. No, that would be bad. Because the people wouldn't like that, and that's bad for your channel when you live off it. You know, I know a lot of people who podcast about Warhammer 40,000, 30,000, fantasy, whatever. And they're the same thing again, because they want to have interesting guests on, like Forge World writers, Games Workshop staff, sculptors, writers, that kind of thing. And they're like, well, if I shit on the company, that's never going to happen, therefore I just won't shit on the company. Well, that's not good enough, is it? And it's very transparent when that happens. So, that I dislike. And that's very common, actually. And when they do have someone on, like Matt Ward, for example, they don't ever turn around and say something like, so why did you write, say, 5th edition Grey Knights to have all those multi-wound characters for so cheap when this army over here got nothing like that, and clearly there was this massive power discrepancy. Like, what was the thought process behind that? And they should get him to say what he was thinking at the time of writing it. People don't do that. They're just like, oh, you know, what was the favourite project you worked on or whatever? Something like that's the question they'll ask. And so then the author can just sit there and talk about how fucking great they are. You know, you talk to a Black Library novel writer. They're not like, hey, you know, how come Gav Thorpe, you absolutely nailed Deliverance Lost, and yet you fucked the Dark Angels trilogy? You know, what was your thinking there? You know, obviously phrased a lot more delicately there. Those aren't the questions that people ask. They're like, you know, what do you love about writing Dark Angels books? And then they'll let the author waffle on and go on a fucking ego trip or whatever. That's not my thing. And maybe that's what people are referring to when they're talking about shills as well. I don't know. But anyway, that's my whole bunch of really random spaghetti gobbledygook of thoughts on the whole matter. Hopefully people found it interesting to some degree. And fuck, I don't know what more to say. I would happily chat with some of these quote-unquote shills and just get their position on different things. I think if they were pressed on the matter, they would probably show their true colours. I don't think anyone is fully positive. And, you know, again, don't mix up positivity with shilling, because there are people out there who are just happy to have the hobby and they just want to say nice things about it. Of course, the difference is being when their livelihood is involved on how good the hobby's doing, well, then you obviously want to say nice things, don't you? Anyway, Make With the Outer Circle, thank you all for watching this probably, again, boring episode. I do apologise, but I try and do the viewer requests. And I'll see you all next time.